I need you to stay with me, because I want to tell you something about the people who left. Not the ones who betrayed you loudly, not the ones who screamed on the way out, the ones who just went quiet, the ones you would have kept forever if they had let you. And I need to tell you what God was actually doing when they walked away. I remember sitting in my car outside a place I used to belong. Not inside, outside. Because somewhere in the previous 6 months, without a fight, without a reason, I had become someone they no longer called. I sat there for a long time, and I did what you do when the silence gets too loud. I scrolled through our conversations, looking for the moment it changed, looking for what I did, and the most dangerous thoughts started to form. The one you don't say out loud, maybe I'm just hard to stay for. Maybe everyone eventually figures that out. Maybe this is just who I am to people. If that thought has ever visited you at 2 a.m., I need you to keep watching, because that thought is a lie dressed up as self-awareness. And it almost cost me everything that came next. Genesis 37. Joseph, 17 years old. He had a dream about his future, actually saw it, and the people who were supposed to protect him most decided they couldn't live with it. His brothers, not strangers, not enemies. The people at his table, the people who knew his name before he knew it himself. They didn't just leave. They threw him into a pit, sold him for silver, went home, ate dinner, slept. And Joseph had nothing, no explanation, no timeline, no voice saying, "This is going somewhere." Just the silence of people who chose to walk away. But here is the line that changed how I read every loss I have ever had. The Lord was with Joseph, not after the brothers left, not once he got to Egypt. While he was in the pit, God did not leave when the people did. And Joseph wasn't the only one. There is a pattern in Scripture that runs through every life God was preparing for something greater, and it always starts the same way, with being left out. I kept coming back to one man, David, not the king, not the giant slayer, the version before all of that, the one his own father forgot to call when Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel. Jesse presented 7 sons. 7. And not once did he think to say, "There's one more. He's out in the field." His own father didn't believe he was worth the room. And God looked at Samuel and said, "This is the one nobody called, the one nobody waited for, the one left outside while everyone else was considered." God chose him not despite being overlooked, but as if the overlooking itself was part of the preparation. The people who didn't make room for David had no idea they were clearing the throne. John 15, verse 2. Every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. Stop at that word. Prunes, not dead branches, not broken branches, not the ones that stopped growing, the ones that are growing, because there is a direction of growth that looks like progress, but leads away from where you're meant to go. And God is not gentle about redirecting it. He doesn't send a warning. He doesn't explain in advance. He just removes the relationship that was slowly making you smaller, the friendship that had no language for who you were becoming, the room that applauded the old version of you and went silent every time the new one spoke. That wasn't abandonment. That was pruning. And the branch never understands why the gardener's hand feels like loss. I had a friend I would have done anything for. We had a ritual. Every Sunday evening, a voice message. Didn't matter what was happening. That was ours. And then one Sunday, nothing. I waited. Told myself, busy week. The next Sunday, nothing. I sent one message, short, light. The kind that's easy to answer. Read, not answered. I sat with my phone in my hand for longer than I want to admit. And I did what you do. I made myself smaller. Sent a follow-up that was even lighter, even easier. almost apologizing for existing in their notifications. And one day I stopped. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally heard what the silence was actually saying. You have outgrown this, and you keep trying to shrink back in. They weren't my enemy. They were just assigned to a chapter that God had already finished writing, and I was the one refusing to turn the page. Joseph didn't see the palace from the pit. He couldn't have known that the brothers who sold him were unknowingly placing him exactly where he needed to be, that the betrayal was the route, that the abandonment was the assignment, that the people who removed themselves from his story were, without knowing it, making room for a chapter they didn't have the clearance to enter. Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Every person who went quiet, every unanswered message, every Sunday evening that stopped coming, every room that got smaller the moment you started to grow, God has already written the rest of that sentence. And it ends nowhere near where you're sitting right now. The direction that finally opened for me, and the one I almost dismissed as not serious enough, only became visible after the silence got loud enough to hear it. The people who stopped calling stopped filling the hours I needed to finally sit still and listen. I didn't find my purpose. My purpose found me in the space that their absence created. I didn't understand that then. Standing in that parking lot, scrolling through old conversations, I thought I was losing something. I was being handed everything. Wherever you are, grieving a friendship that faded, confused by a door that closed without explanation, sitting in your car outside, a place you used to belong, that is not rejection. That is preparation. God does not elevate you and keep everyone around you the same. He cannot. Because where He is taking you requires a different circle, a different room, a different level of conversation, a different kind of peace. And sometimes, the only way to get you there is to make where you're uncomfortable enough to move. You're not too much. You are not hard to love. You're not the person everyone eventually leaves. You are Joseph, somewhere between the pit and the palace. And the people who walked away from your story have no idea what they just made room for. The betrayal was the root. The silence was the preparation. The empty seat at the table was God clearing space for something they didn't have the clearance to witness. You don't need their explanation. You don't need their apology. You don't need them to understand what God is building, because they were never meant to be in the building. Type "make room" in the comments, not for the algorithm, for yourself, because that is a declaration. And He hears every single one. If you know someone who has been grieving the people who left, someone sitting in their car, staring at old conversations, send them this, because sometimes God uses one video to explain 3 years of silence. I'll see you in the next one.